sort of book that I love. It's a lot of fun. In the best sense, it's the sort of book you would have on your night table or in the bathroom, because you read a little chapter at a time. The Book of Nice, a nice book about nice things for nice people. That's the subtitle. But even if you're not a nice person, it's fascinating. We talked about what did we begin with? Oh yeah, clapping, applause, how that developed. Listen to this, nice facts about kissing. Kissing is hard work. Researchers concluded that each person uses 34 facial muscles and 112 postural muscles to successfully smooch. So it's almost a workout. You got a fascinating thing. I've always wondered this. Why is nodding of the head, which you have a chapter on, why is nodding of the head, the author is Josh Chetwynd, nodding of the head is yes and shaking the head is no. Is that correct?
It is. So
but it's not correct in Bulgaria. I don't know if you know that.
I was about to say, this is something that's an interesting disagreement. Charles Darwin actually wrote a lot about the nod. He was really into it and kind of wanted to discern whether the nod was something that was intrinsic for all humans or not. And he did research at a time before we had the internet, so, he had to do a lot of writing to the many people he'd met on his travels. And he found out that it actually, well, the action might be intrinsic, the meaning is not intrinsic, and that in some places the nod up and down, as you mentioned, Bulgaria, would mean no rather than yes. But in the Western world, it's pretty unanimous with a few exceptions, like Bulgaria.
So how did that develop?
Well, I think that one is an example of something that is innate. The movement was innate, and I think at least the reason that Darwin suggested that it became a positive fixture was that it actually came from babies sort of moving their head up in order to suckle, to be honest.
So Bulgarian babies don't do that?
Apparently not, or maybe it was a little more difficult, or maybe the babies...
I encountered this in Bulgaria in my 20s, and I speak enough Bulgarian because I know Russian, so I asked people, is this the train to Sofia? And they said, da, which most people know is yes in Bulgarian and Russian, but they shook their head when they said da. So the head went from side to side while saying yes. And I asked again, and they said the same thing, yes, while shaking their head from side to side. And I thought I'd go nuts. And I thought, what do I listen? Do I listen or do I look? And I decided that listening was more accurate. And I was right. So I got on the right train. But for the foreigner who doesn't know this, you can go nuts. In fact, it's very hard. I want listeners right now to try to say yes while shaking their head. Yes.
Well, and Dennis, that is the nature of nice, which is that there are cultural differences in what is considered nice and what isn't. The rainbow is a good example where there's certain cultures where the rainbow is considered something very dangerous and
is that right?
Not necessarily sinister. Yeah. Even today, certain areas of China, certain other areas in Hungary, there's concern about the rainbow. That is something that can actually be dangerous, and if you look at it too long, it can actually do damage to you. So there's certainly, I talk a lot about sort of the cultural relativism of nice. And the focus of this book is more on the Western world because most of the readers will be from the Western world and particularly English-speaking world. But I certainly point out instances like that where it's very different what people think is nice in one place or another.
I looked up cheerleading. Turns out men were the first.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, men started. In fact, women weren't even allowed to do it until probably about 20, 30 years into the whole concept of cheerleading. It was something that was the domain of men first. And of course, we have famous men who were cheerleaders. George W. Bush is a good example.
I didn't know that. Did you know that? Did everybody here know that? I'm the only one here who didn't know that George W. Bush had been a cheerleader, and he still won election? Was it known when he ran? Male cheerleaders. Come on.